Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is to you. Welcome to Is the Fudge on Mars with David Shepherd, Steve Maltz, and David Jones.
Hey.
Welcome to you too, Steve, David.
hmm
I think we've got an awful lot to talk about today, don't you?
Yeah, it's been actually 4 weeks, so there's a lot has happened. Too
Yeah,
much. Yeah.
I've jotted down a few things. Actually, I'm going to just start with something we did get a bit of a pre-chat, but I missed this out, and it's David. You posted something about Danny Kruger, who was the MP who spoke up. I think it was to do about the future of the Church of England in Parliament. Extraordinary view because it looked like he was one of only three MPs in the Commons when
Mm.
he spoke. But it was a really good message, um, with some interesting ideas in there. Any thoughts from what you picked up from it?
I think what was so great about what Danny said was the fact that he was saying that the whole of Parliament, even where they were sat day in, day out, was established by Christian principles.
Yeah, that's right.
It was just it was an incredible statement. The House, of course, was near empty. I think there was
Completely.
maybe two or three other MPs in there,
Mm.
and the Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons, if memory serves me
Mm.
correctly.
I was told there was a reason for it. It's because it was late on a Thursday, and the rest of them were on their way back home. so, unless they were really into the subject, they wouldn't be there. It wasn't important enough for most.
Yeah, and obviously
Yeah.
PMQs, it was the final PMQs last Wednesday before the summer recess.
Mm.
So that might explain some of it as well. But nevertheless, it was an astonishing statement. And I think, David, didn't you post some of the responses from Hansard?
Yeah, I managed to find the whole speech plus responses from Hansard, and there must have been at least two or three people in the house in order for there to be
So,
some
what was the
responses.
actual, the core message in terms of, where the church is going at the moment? Was there a core message, or was he just going on about history?
Well, he linked it very much to the events of the last couple of months, Steve,
Yeah.
with what had taken place in the House in regards to abortion
Oh,
and
right.
euthanasia.
Yeah.
You know, he was saying that what this House has voted for is anathema to
Yeah.
Christianity and to the Bible's view of the sanctity of life.
Yeah.
So he was using that as a way then of saying, no, everything about this country is founded on Christian principles and on the Bible, on the Torah. I mean, he was very firm and very clear. He
Mm.
spoke with great passion, and he's a very eloquent man, very articulate. But what he said was actually almost impossible to argue against. So it was a
Mm.
pity the House wasn't full.
Yeah. I mean,
I'll read you the kind of concluding statements from his speech. He says, to conclude, a wind is blowing, a storm is coming, and when it hits, we're going to learn if our house is built on rock or on sand. But we've been here before. The reformers of the 11th and the 16th centuries, the Puritans in the 17th century, the evangelicals in the 19th century all brought this country back from the edge, from idolatry, error, or just plain indifference, and from all the social and political crises that indifference to Christianity brought about. And they each, in their generation, restored this country to itself. A new restoration is needed now with a revival of the faith, a recovery of Christian politics, and a refounding of this nation on the teachings that Alfred made the basis of the common law of England all those centuries ago. This is a mission for the church under its next leader, whoever that is. It
mm,
is a mission for this place, the old chapel that became the wellspring of Western
mm,
democracy, and for us, its members. And it is a mission for our whole country. It is the route to a prosperous modernity founded on respect for human dignity, responsibility for the created world, and the worship of God.
Extraordinary.
No sign of this happening in our current generation, I have to say.
Not at the moment, is there?
No. I
But
mean,
wonderful
I've just
centre.
I've just shown you that message from the Archbishop of York, who I suppose is the head of the church at the moment. The way that he's denouncing Israel at the moment with the most strong terms that indicate to me that he's a million miles away from
Yeah, just
what God's heart is, you know.
read that out, Steve, because that was just before
Okay,
we
if
went
people
on.
don't mind us,
Went to air.
if people don't mind us reading things out continuously, it's
Well, I think it's
It's
giving
that
us
kind
food
of
for
night,
thought,
isn't
isn't
it?
it?
yeah. Okay, here we go. With statement by the Archbishop of York on the situation in Gaza. With each passing day in Gaza, the violence, starvation, and dehumanization being inflicted on the civilian population by the government of Israel becomes more depraved and unconscionable. Unconscionable. In the name of God, I cry out against. Oh, yes, thus says the Lord. You know, oh, he's crying out against this barbaric assault on human life and dignity. It is a stain on the conscience of the international community and a flagrant breach of international humanitarian law. The statement this week by the UK and 27 other states considering the denial of aid and the inhumane killing of civilians at aid posts is an important, if long overdue, sign of growing international resolve to end this war. But while the group stated their preparedness to take further action, there is no time to wait. Action must be taken now to stop this ongoing assault on Gaza and settlement building and settler violence in the West Bank and secure negotiation for a lasting and just peace. It just makes me so angry.
Yeah.
It is so ignorant. It's basically, you know, when you make a comment, you make your comment on data that's supplied. When the data that's supplied to you is coming from a terrorist group, and everything he says there is based on this data, and we know there is data from the Israeli side, and we also know the statistic says that media outlets and publications, 90%, 97% of their sources are from Hamas. Only 3%.
I'm going to raise an issue here, which
Yeah.
I will be interested to see what your response to this is.
Yeah, go on then.
In that international journalists have been banned from going into Gaza.
Yeah.
The only journalists in there. Oh, sorry, it just knocked my mic. I'm going to have to stop that. It's making a dreadful noise.
So are you.
Can you hear it?
No.
Oh, that's weird.
No, not at all.
Oh, it's just at this end. So, yeah, international journalists banned. The only journalists in there are Palestinian ones.
Yep.
And I understand they're having quite a tough time because I'm not sure if they are only getting their information from Hamas or they're trying to be objective or what. But it does mean that I'm wondering if Israel has shot itself in the foot by not allowing objective
I originally thought
evaluation
that.
of what they're doing.
Well, I've actually seen their justification for it. And
Okay, that's
they
interesting.
firmly believe if they allow journalists in, that the journalists will get killed. Because of the nature of the claustrophobic sort of situation there, any journalist who is an independent journalist and therefore is able to uncover the truth is going to be a target for Hamas.
Yes,
and they will target him and blame it on the Israelis, and the world will believe it.
Yeah.
So
yes,
that's what they're saying. That's why they're not allowing it for their own good.
Well, it does mean there aren't objective voices coming out telling us what's going on. And we talked last time on the last podcast, didn't we? How there was so much misinformation, disinformation, propaganda, which deceives people and leads people to believing things about what's going on that is just not true. I was talking to Steve earlier, David, that I had an argument. It was an argument with a lady today in the lounge where I live. And she basically was saying, I'm appalled by what Israel is doing. It's evil. And she really had to go about it. And I tried to say to her, well, you mustn't believe everything that you're being told because a lot of it is coming from Hamas. Most of it's coming from Hamas. Oh, my goodness. She got so mad with me. She would not listen to it at all. But what it made me think is this is the battle that is going on in the world at the moment. In that truth is not going out and
No.
people are being totally deceived by the messages that are being presented to them.
I think we've got an awful lot to unpack, haven't we, tonight? And you've got to be careful with this, because we obviously want to give out factual information as well.
Yeah.
And we don't want to be seen as people who are merely spouting propaganda from the Israeli side either.
Well, I think that's true. And I was thinking about that very point, David, because I realised that we're not experts. We're not feet on the ground. We are looking in from the outside ourselves. But with that in mind, I thought, well, let's look for some objective information about this. And I put a search in onto ChatGPT. I think I sent it through to both of you. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Just basically saying, is there any factual evidence to show that there is famine in Gaza and that people are being killed at food stations? Now, ChatGPT did a search, and it searches the whole of the internet, everywhere, and it came back and said, no.
I mean, that's amazing, isn't it? Because that is
incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, now I think it'll be interesting then if you could, perhaps both of you, if you've not already seen it, get up today's front cover of the Daily Express. So a centre-right newspaper. I think this, I'd really like to know, I haven't managed to investigate this myself yet. I'd really like to know who's currently has got ownership of the Daily Express, because it took a very strong opinion about euthanasia, which was unusual in comparison with newspapers like the Daily Telegraph and the Daily Mail, who seem to be far more taking a sort of Judeo-Christian approach to that topic, and obviously saying that there are real dangers with euthanasia, whereas the Daily Express was very much behind the campaign that had obviously been led by Esther Ranson and others. Now, if you have a look at the Daily Express front cover today, I think if you are anybody who has not prepared to do further research, you are going to definitely believe that what's going on in Gaza is a humanitarian crisis that has been brought on in part by the Israeli government's actions.
Yeah.
Well, you said you wanted facts. Well, I can give you facts.
Hold on, Steve. Before you give us the facts, because I think that's really important. Have you both managed to have a look at the front cover of the Daily Express?
I can't get it. I mean, on their website, they don't show the front cover.
Okay, let me see if I can draw it up quickly. Go on, Steve. You carry on with what you were saying.
Well, there's two issues. Number one is the issue of aid, how much food is getting in, and whether there is starvation. And number two, is there a genocide? In other words, are Israeli soldiers purposely shooting people for no reason? For absolute reason.
This is what ChatGPT said. There seems to be no evidence that this is happening.
That's their basis for the work for genocide. Is that without there being an objective like, there's terrorists in the queue, the food aid queue, so let's shoot at random and hopefully we'll get a terrorist. It's nothing like that. In fact, every account has been debunked, not just by Israel but by the aid agency, the American aid agency. There was one situation where there was I think it happened last week where 20 people got killed in a crush, and that was simply because there's just too many of them, and there was a crush. It wasn't caused by Israel herding them into an area, like one of those Hazel tragedies, the football tragedy. It wasn't anything like that. Yeah. And that got front page on the BBC. On the same day, and I think we're talking about July the 16th, on the same day was the massacre in the hospital in Syria with the Druze people, up to 100. There was no mention of it on that day, a massacre, even though it happened at the same time as this Gaza story. I looked anywhere in the BBC website, nothing. They mentioned it 4 days afterwards. In other words, they couldn't avoid. But the fact is that they trawl for stories that show Israel in a bad light in the first case. The other quick thing, Richard Kemp, who you probably know, there's the British Army officer who's been over to Gaza and is quite a friend of Israel. He was being interviewed. I just saw an interview, and he was asked.
This is available on YouTube, I think, Steve, isn't it?
Yeah. He was with Jonathan Sakadoty. He's a good bloke. It was an interview. It was in Tel Aviv while the rockets were going over from Iran, and he was according to a survey by I think the Simon Wiesen
He's a Tal Centre.
Wiesenthal Centre, yeah. In terms of the most anti-Semitic groups in the world, number one was Iran, number two Hamas, number three the BBC.
Wow.
Officially. So there's no getting around this, and I mean I could go on a rant about what happened with the Bob Vylan thing, how the BBC made sure that the world saw that, and it's become a meme now, and it's everywhere because the BBC chose to broadcast it, or didn't choose not to broadcast it. It's going back to facts. So
yeah, by the way, I've just emailed you both the front cover of the Daily Express. So it might be worth having a look at that. While you're just having a quick look, Steve, I'll just say, because this is very much in line with what you've just been saying about the distortion of the truth here. So we've already had quite a few things read out tonight. So you'll have to pardon us all, folks. But this is really important, that we understand where this is coming from. So this is the statement put out today from Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London. The absolutely harrowing scenes of suffering in Gaza. And again, anybody who's seen the Daily Express today will see what they are claiming is the starvation of civilians in Gaza are being made worse by the day with no sign of the crisis abating. Starving children searching hopelessly for food in the rubble. Family members shot dead by Israeli soldiers as they search for aid. In heartbreaking scenes, innocent lives are being torn apart before the eyes of the rest of the world. The international community, including our own governments, must do far more to pressure the Israeli government to stop this horrific, senseless killing and let vital life-saving aid in. Nothing justifies the actions of the Israeli government. And then he concludes, the UK must immediately recognise Palestinian statehood. There can be no two-state solution if there's no viable state left to call Palestine.
There was no viable state in 2005 in Gaza because they destroyed it. The Gazans themselves.
That was the thing from the mayor that I mentioned earlier. And just seen that picture, the front page of the Express. I mean, you take that and what the mayor has said. These are appalling misdirections, aren't they?
Yeah. We're looking at, and those of us with memories will remember Ethiopia in the 80s. And it's tried to make that association in our minds.
100%, Steve.
Totally different situation. Anyway, in terms of the food aid, so Dave and I were looking at this, and I've got an actual statistic. So they're saying more than 100 aid agencies warn that mass starvation is spreading across Gaza, accusing Israel of not allowing food inside the strip. Well, apparently there's between 700 and 950 trucks of food sitting there, and I've seen pictures of it. There's actually a photograph of it, where basically Israel is saying that the UN are refusing to distribute it. It's not just Israel saying that, but it's the aid agency, the American aid agency. And on the BBC, looking at the summary of the story, right at the top, in like the headlines was like mass starvation. It's all Israel's fault. That's like the headline, and right at the bottom, it says, Israel, which controls all border crossings, says there are 700 trucks worth of aid inside Gaza waiting to be picked up. And the aid shortage is, and then in brackets, in inverted commas, engineered by Hamas. In other words, when you put something in inverted commas, it's like hearsay, it's not real, don't really believe it. Someone's just saying that. So what they're saying is, don't believe what the Israelis are saying, but do believe what Hamas are saying. And even Monica was looking at some of the pictures of one of a little film of a baby there, and on a drip, saying he's being starved. And she said, from her knowledge of babies, that is not a starving baby. That's a baby with an illness. That's a baby that's got something wrong, sort of physically, and it's on the drip, and it's being dealt with accordingly. Not a baby that's suddenly. I don't understand this. I mean, the doctors and nurses, they've got food. The parents have got food. Why haven't the kids got food? We
There was
see
also
kids.
Well,
there was also
even
a
go on,
video
Steve.
today,
Sorry.
Steve and David, on, I'm not sure where I saw it, but it was of some Hamas soldiers in the tunnels celebrating with tons and tons of food. And the reality is that they are procuring lots of the food that does get into Gaza, and then using it for weapons, or actually selling it to the Palestinians, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, David,
Yeah.
interrupted.
I was going to say. So the Times of Israel has reported today that the GHF, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, that the US and Israeli, that's a US and Israeli backed
Yeah,
initiative,
Yeah.
is willing to deliver food to Palestinians for the UN, but the UN has given up distributing aid altogether. And so the spokesperson, a guy called Chapin Fay, has said we can get their aid into Gaza safely and securely, and we've offered to help repeatedly, but they continue to reject our offers, arguing that it will not cooperate with the GHF as its distribution mechanism has placed Palestinians at risk by forcing them to walk long distances and cross IDF lines in order to pick up aid. So
Yeah.
they do admit that there is after initially a steadily improving situation with the distribution of aid, desperation levels in Gaza are rising again as aid organizations cut back operations. So I think what we need here is we need a bottom line, first of all. Yesterday, in what I was literally blown away by his response. Every morning on Good Morning Britain, they have a newspaper review. And obviously a lot of the things that we've been hearing over the past few weeks was again front page headlines. So they had Kevin Maguire, who writes for the Daily Mirror and certainly leans to the left. And he doesn't support Hamas, but he definitely does support a Palestinian statehood. So he turned around to one of the guest reviewers, which yesterday was Michael Gove. And he said to Michael Gove, he said, come on, Michael, you surely condemn what Israel are doing at the moment with not allowing all the aid in to Gaza. And he said, Michael Gove's response was remarkable. He said, the only people responsible for this crisis is Hamas.
Yeah.
And you could see Kevin Maguire's jaw literally drop to the floor. He said, are you being serious? He said, I'm being deadly serious. What's happened over the past 18 months to 2 years can only be laid at the door of Hamas themselves. I will not condemn Israel for its actions. And if you want to talk about genocide, if there's really a genocide going on, or if Israel really wanted to commit genocide, it could have just launched all their F-17s and completely obliterated Gaza. So that's not what's going on at all. So that's the bottom line for me. There is obviously suffering in Gaza. There's no doubt about that. There's suffering going on, but that suffering has got to be laid at the door of Hamas. And the other key question, David and Steve, that I think we need to try and get an answer to is why is Egypt constantly refusing to open up the gates to allow people to go into Egypt and be safe?
Yeah, that's true.
Arab
They have
nations.
a massive wall there, don't they? Which is bigger than the one Trump was building to stop
Arab
people from
nations.
Mexico again.
Arab nations have got a really difficult history with Palestinians. You know, just going back since 48, every country that the PLO have moved to, they've caused trouble and they've been thrown out. I mean, there was a civil war in Jordan, Black September, wasn't it? Egypt have had their problems as well. The Palestinians, the Arab countries are not interested in any way in this crisis. Otherwise, they'd be helping them. Why is it Israel that has to help them and America that's helping them? Where is the Islamic aid? Where is the aid from the Muslim world? The rich Qatarians and the Saudis? Where is their relief? So the world looks on and blames Israel for this genocide and this famine, and yet do nothing about it, where they could very easily do stuff about it. The whole thing does not make sense. There's so much of everything that doesn't make sense to me. I'm losing grip on reality at the moment.
Well, do you know, I was thinking, I was just reflecting on the fact that um, we're probably sounding far more passionate tonight because I think both Steve and I think David, you too, have been stirred up by what we've been reading in the press and on the media recently, and found it very disturbing. And we're not being as nice and as humorous and as funny and whatever we normally are when we do this kind of thing, but we are getting very passionate about it. What I
Yeah,
was thinking was it would be a good idea, Steve, um, if you could make a list of sites, particularly addresses on websites and things like that, that people who are listening to this could actually go to get information, like the GHF, like the Israeli government site.
yeah,
I've got the Richard Kemp one as well. There's
yeah,
various ones because we've talked about various things, but in my mind, it seems to me that Christians today need to be equipped. They need to
yeah,
have the tools, not only to be educated, but also to be able to be an apologist, to be an advocate, if you like,
yeah.
for Israel and for what's going on at the moment.
I think Christians have. Well, funny enough, I was on Revelation TV, as one is, last Friday,
Ah, no, he's going to name
and
drop
and
now.
we talked about. I was there
I was on Revelation TV, you
with
know.
Robin Benson, and it was a really passionate program. They're showing it on the 22nd of August, but we were having a similar conversation to what we're having now, and we were going very passionate, and particularly Robin, in particular, having a go at the church, and he's basically talking about apostasy. That word kept coming up, and I think it's true to me that it's clear that there's this confusion over the nations at the moment on this issue. The anti-Semitism that's coming out is like a virus that's broken out like never before since Nazi Germany, and ordinary people are caught up in it, and they don't know. It's almost like they've lost their minds. I saw a little clip on YouTube of a group of pro-pallies, and there's a supermarket. They must have been selling avocados from Israel, and they were just shuffling towards it like zombies, chanting like zombies. Like somebody was like brains, brains. I mean, it's like the mindlessness, and they don't know why they're doing it. It's almost like they're hypnotized. That's why I think there's this delusion that's come over our world. And it's up to Christians not to be sucked into it, but they are. Look at
Yeah.
what the Archbishop of York has done. He's as bad as the rest, and he's the head of the church.
Well,
So,
partly, almost,
well,
maybe.
there is no Archbishop of Canterbury, is there? So, he's the next in line. But, it's I can understand the work that ordinary person doesn't have the anchor that we have in our faith. You know, hasn't got access to absolute truth, and so they're prey to the whims of our culture. But Christians, we should know better. Rather than going out and feeling hatred towards Jewish people, which, as you know, has been a meme throughout history, particularly from Christians, they should look into it, as David says. And just quickly, there's a website. It's called it's Cogat, COGAT. If you type in COGAT and then humanitarian aid, that was the official Israeli website that documents every day how much aid is getting into Gaza,
Yes.
and that they're real numbers,
Well,
and that's what would be quoted by the Israelis.
the the website actually is Gaza uh, dash aid dash data.gov.il /main /.
Yeah.
So that's Gaza hyphen aid hyphen data.gov.il /main /.
Yeah.
And that'll take you to that website that Steve's been
And
talking
I
about.
think it's up to every Christian really to sit back and think, I don't want to be sucked into this. I've got to wake up from this cloud of confusion that's surrounding me,
Yeah.
and prayer. How
Yeah,
many are praying
absolutely.
into it?
Well, I found myself much more thinking about when we were doing this tonight. I was just praying about it beforehand, thinking that we really do. We are in a battle here. we're in frontline battle in terms of truth, and it's not just about ideas about Israel and everything. It's about the whole of our faith, isn't it? You know, because we're looking forward to Jesus, the Messiah, coming back, and Israel is such a key part of that future. Well, you know more about that than I do, then, Steve. You can probably
No, you're
you
going,
probably
going
probably
well.
probably
Keep
talk
going.
for the rest of your life about that, can't you?
I'll get a bit fed up talking about it. God, but yeah,
Well, I've just put it in context there that we're not going to get worked up about this just because we can get worked up about it, but because it's actually to do with our faith and our Christian faith and our belief in Jesus the Messiah.
yeah. I think that's the key thing, is that in the past, perhaps when there wasn't a war going on and there wasn't massive anti-Semitism, we would say it was a secondary issue in the church.
Yeah.
Now it's forefront, it's up front and center, and any Christian that doesn't realize in that is just got their head in the sand, I think.
Well, I tell you what, I just want to just make it a little bit lighter. It's just to talk about something slightly different, but it goes along always also on the same lines. This business of Greg Wallace and John Turode being sacked from, what is it called, MasterChef.
Yeah.
John Turode in particular, it seems like he sang something which was a racist word, which is a word that none of us would probably use.
No.
And he's been sacked from this. I was reading in the paper about these people supporting Palestine action on the streets of the capital of our country, shouting "Death to the Jews."
Yeah, no different. Yeah.
What on earth is going on?
Yeah, double standards.
This can happen, and we take a little bit of offence by somebody saying something 9 years ago in the middle of when he was singing a song.
Yeah, I'll tell you what makes me really angry about that is that the BBC have sacked him at the same time to deflect from what they did at Glastonbury.
Yeah.
Tim Davie should not be in that job. He's an absolute disgrace. You know, he was actually...
Well, the other thing is with that, Steve, today they've announced that they are going to show the latest series of MasterChef. So that just seems so hypocritical.
It does, doesn't
So the
it?
most recent series with John Turode and who's the other guy, David? I've forgotten his name.
Greg Wallace.
Wallace. So so they are going to be showing that. We've got an appalling, almost epidemic proportions of anti-Semitism in the country at the moment. So I'd like to point out to people as well that today, the 23rd of July, is the anniversary of when deportations to Treblinka actually started.
Oh my goodness.
So I've said this before on the podcast, David, but I think it's worth repeating. We have got a fifth column in the country at the moment. We have got agitators who are revolutionary Marxists, the members of things like the Palestine Solidarity Campaign and the pro-Palestinian mob and others, you know, with Corbyn and Zara Sultana's new party, which is about to, it's already apparently at 15% in the opinion polls when I checked. So we have got a group of people in the country who are anti-Semitic to their core, and they're saying and doing things which are terrifying to the Jewish community. And there seems to be such a dissonance between what is actually going on in Israel, Gaza, Palestine, the Middle East, and what's actually taking place. And they're using what's happening in Israel almost as an excuse to justify their anti-Semitism.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what's brought it to the surface. It's like there's a hook to hang it on. And it's, to me, you know, having sort of investigated the history of anti-Semitism, every generation finds a new expression of it. And the world was fairly quiet for a few decades. There was such a shock after the Holocaust that it took time for it to sort of get to regenerated. But even when you go back to the 60s, when the students first started marching and Marxism first started rearing its ugly head, there wasn't anything about, you know, hating the Jews or any sort of Jewish element there. Now, like you said, this death to the IDF. It's just a euphemism to death to the Jews. And I see it everywhere now. I see it in songs. It's a meme that's gone over the whole world. And these people that are mindlessly saying it, every one of them should be prosecuted for a hate crime.
Yeah.
And where is the condemnation, Steve? Where's the condemnation of what's happening to the Druze in Syria? It's just unbelievable. Like Amal Clooney, who's married to George Clooney, the actor, and she's a human rights lawyer, I think. She has spoken at great length and condemned Israel at every opportunity she's got, and she's got some Druze heritage. So where's her condemnation about what's going on at the moment in Syria? And why isn't that making the front page of every single newspaper as the situation in Gaza seems to be?
Interesting that there are 150,000 Druze who live in Israel, and many of them in the IDF.
That's correct.
And that's one of the reasons why Israel has bombed. They had a target, didn't they, in Syria because of what's happened. But
Sueda or somewhere.
Sueda is the kind of the main place where Druze people live. I had to look up what they were though, because I didn't really understand what they were.
Offshoot of Islam, and they're not Muslims.
It's an offshoot, and they believe in reincarnation. You can't join them. You either are one or you're not. But they've been attacked basically by extremist Islamic.
But when you think about it,
groups.
Israel got enough trouble as it is, and yet it still went to.
They go for their defense.
They went to. I mean, isn't that honourable?
Yeah, I think so. But I mean, some people won't know what happened because it was a hospital in Sueda that was attacked, and patients were killed and tortured and mutilated in their beds by Islamic fundamentalists.
Up to 300 people, they reckon.
They think so, yeah. And there's been a history of antipathy between these groups for many years.
And Christians, no one talks about the Christians in Syria. And in we've got our friend Jean-Louis, who's Christian from Lebanon.
She mentioned, Monica mentioned this, didn't she?
A lot of Syrians are moving to Lebanon, Syrian Christians. This is not safe for them anymore in Syria. So all these things are happening below the radar, but because no Jews are involved, it's not news. It's so ridiculous.
I read something
here and there, though. Go on.
I was going to say, I read something Monica put on WhatsApp, which was this is Steve's wife, Monica, that one pastor, Christian pastor, I think, who was a butcher, Christian butcher in Syria, had to leave. Or was it Lebanon? He'd had to leave, Steve. I can't remember now, but it was simply because of the persecution. I think his shop was burnt to the ground or something like that.
What they're not reporting
I'm getting all the facts wrong now because Monica will listen to this and correct me.
How many hundreds of thousands of Afghans are being kicked out of Iran and Pakistan, sent back to Afghanistan where they know they're going to get killed, because they had to leave because of the Taliban. Now they've been sent back, without any recourse. You got a day to get packing, off you go. Iran, it's 100,000.
Again, Steve, I think that's part of the problem, isn't it? There are so many places in the world where ordinary civilians are being mistreated because of Islamic fundamentalism of one sort or another. And yet nobody is on the streets campaigning against that. I mean, we had all this, again, something we've mentioned on the podcast before. We had the woman life freedom movements in Iran because of what happened to Mahsa Amini. We've obviously got, since the Taliban have emerged again in Afghanistan in 2021, whenever it was, I think it was in the summer of that year, human rights for women has just gone completely, it's been completely destroyed. And I don't see anybody complaining about that. A woman now, if you're a woman, you can't go to a park on your own. You've got to wear an eye patch now. It's not enough to wear a burqa anymore. You've actually got to wear an eye patch when you're going out in public.
Where is this, in Iran?
In Afghanistan.
In Afghanistan.
Yeah. So this is what's happening, and we don't get the same level of response from the media to some of these stories, and these are horrific things that are going on. I was going to say, David, a few minutes ago that I think what we need to be aware of, though, is that despite the comments of like the Pope and the Archbishop of York, obviously towing the party line as far as Gaza is concerned. There are some good news stories, say, that are going under the radar a little bit. I know that a group of Christians this week in Munich surrounded one of the main synagogues
I
there
just saw that. I
to
saw the video.
protect it from the pro-Palestinian mob.
Yeah.
So there are good things going on, and we need to be supporting those kind of endeavors, and we desperately need. I just want to put this out there, as somebody obviously who's worked in Holocaust education for many years and is working in Holocaust education again. Got some training down in London next month for this new Testimony 360 virtual reality program. I would really urge on people to make sure you are standing in solidarity with the Jewish community at the moment in the UK. The Jewish community is scared. I mean, genuinely frightened about what's going on. Some of the things that happen. You've all seen images, either photographs or videos of people who are Jewish having a meal out in London somewhere, and their tables being turned upside down. There's terrible things going on.
Unbelievable.
And it's just the violence against ordinary Jewish people and it being justified because of what's going on in the Middle East is truly at epidemic levels.
Right.
And we need to stand shoulder to shoulder with them.
There's a march against anti-Semitism in London. I think it's either the 7th or the 6th of September.
Yeah.
Right.
Massive one. You got to register beforehand, but they're hoping it's going to be a really, really massive. That would be very interesting to see who come out of the woodwork in the positive way.
Yeah.
Steve, I don't know if we covered. Steve, I'm not sure if we covered it on the previous podcast, but the GPS network. You attended an online seminar.
Yeah.
And they seem to be very, very active. They're not necessarily a Christian organization.
No, they're not.
I think they're a mixture. There are a lot of Jews involved with it, non-Jews, Christians as well. But I've sort of looked at what they've been doing, and they've got a whole pile of WhatsApp sites. So there's about 10 or 12 of them. But you can subscribe to that. You can find out a lot of information. Tell us a little bit about the seminar that you went on.
I can't remember. It was a few weeks ago. I commented. There was about 60 or 70 people there on Zoom, and I thought it was actually quite amateurish the way they did it, because it's like the old days of Zoom, your microphones, who's on, someone's stroking a cat, someone's whatever. The main speaker, when they went to the main speaker who was actually going to be talking about everything, he was in the back of a taxi in Budapest with an iPhone. He did a good job, except when he went through tunnels, but it was basically 2 or 3 real movers and shakers, like Jewish people who are at the height of their profession, usually marketing or PR, and they were talking about how we can represent the Jewish people on TV, letters to MPs, radio, writing letters, magazines, and all sorts. How we should conduct ourselves on TV, for instance, about certain things you should say, trigger words you shouldn't use. It was just very practical. Can't say I got that much out of it, but I was only half listening. I think, but as David said,
that's the Stephen Maltz I know.
Yeah, well, I'm doing other things.
He never listens to a word I say. David.
I was writing about anti-Semitism while they were talking about it. But it's very worthy, as you say, and I will revisit it. And I don't know.
That's GPS network. If people want to look that up, you can find that on the internet, I think. But you'll also find lots of information on WhatsApp if you do search on WhatsApp for GPS network. Just one thing here, which I'd like a final comment from you on this before we disappear and go back into the ether or whatever we do. Oh, Steve's going to go into his new bed tonight. Yay! Listen, folks. Steve's got a new bed after 40 years.
40 years. 40 years. And last night was supposed to be the first night, and Monica wouldn't let me in because I had this stomach bug. She was in the
Quite
bed
right too.
herself. I had to sleep in the second bedroom.
I I wanted him to sleep on the floor. I think that would have done him good. Anyway, this is the thing. I found it on the. I think it says the Telegraph. I'm not sure it's a Daily Telegraph. It says the Telegraph. It's from the 1st of January 2025, which is some time ago in the whole thingy of things. It says this is the headline: nearly half of people worldwide are anti-Semitic, survey reveals. Expert calls anti-Semitism a global emergency after poll shows that hatred of Jews has doubled in a decade.
Yeah,
This kind of backs up everything that we've been talking about, doesn't it?
I think it's got worse since then.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I think. Yeah. That's
yeah,
why I think
Yeah.
that seems like, 100 years ago from where we are to now.
yeah,
Well, when you have broadcasters like James O'Brien from LBC Radio
yeah,
repeating some of the most appalling things and classic anti-Semitic tropes, as he did on his program yesterday, which is now going to be investigated by the police, I understand. Yeah, he was still allowed to broadcast again today. Then you're in a whole heap of trouble.
The GPS network picked up on that, and
Did they
they
really?
they produced a letter to send off
Right,
to LBC to
right,
complain about it. And they said, look, just copy this and send it off. And they gave you all the wordings and what to say. So,
right.
they were being quite responsive immediately to what had happened. And I think that's a good thing, because what they're doing is they're highlighting things, then giving people some tools to respond.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to make a final statement, if I
Well,
may.
this is the final
Yeah, well, it's just for
statement.
me. You can make your own final
I'll,
statement.
I'll make another final statement after your final
My
statement.
my final.
Because I always need to have the last word, you see.
Yeah, no, you can have the last word. That's fine.
Except in my own house, where my
No,
wife always has the
me
last
too.
word.
All three of us have the same problem there. But my last word is simply to say, we have been very passionate. But for me in particular, it's been very personal. And one thing that's happened since we last met was that I actually came across anti-Semitism on two occasions for the first time in my life, both on the same day, on the tube, and it really brought it home to me. And then straight after that came the Glastonbury, and that Glastonbury for me was like crossing the Rubicon, point of no return. That something so hateful can be broadcast and no repercussions at all. In the past, there would have been resignations from the BBC for
Yes.
something like that, but nothing. I thought the police were supposed to be investigating it. I've
Yeah.
heard nothing since. So I'm just to say,
Steve, if that had been about any other ethnic community in the country,
yeah,
Tim Davie would have lost his job, or he would have
Yeah.
resigned immediately.
Yeah.
That's the fact of the matter, and we all know that.
yeah. When's the world going to wake up? It's a
Yeah.
frightening time.
Interesting, Steve, because I remember you said to me that a lot of people have said to you, would you ever make Aliyah? Which, for those who don't know, means basically for Jews to go back to Israel, to go to basically their home country. And you said you never would, mainly because of family.
Yeah.
But I think given some of the things that have happened, I know that you won't,
No.
but it's crossed your mind, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. Yeah. Yeah. In that it's like that's the whole purpose of Israel, is to be, for the first time in their history, to have a safe haven.
Yeah.
And people talk about, the fishers came first, and now it's the hunters.
Yeah.
And the hunters are those who are driving the Jews back to the land, and that
Yeah.
may be a God thing, but I don't feel the need for it personally. I think there's enough for me to do over here. Well,
Yeah, we still want you, Steve. We still
yeah,
love you.
well,
We want you here.
there is a sense of just escape, isn't there? People going to Israel for
Yeah.
personal escape, But I
But
think we're going to
you could,
fight, haven't we? Over it. There's got to be some people
yeah.
fighting against this lunacy.
And you've got another 50 books to write.
Yeah. The thing that worries me, I know I've said my final word, but my final word was I saw how the Labour Party are really worried about the next election, in that these Muslim parties are coming up and hoping to be so strong by then that they are targeting Keir Starmer and Wes Streeting. And West Streeting, as you know, is my borough. He almost got ousted the last time by this Muslim lady that went against him, and they're grooming him for leadership. So they're actually saying to him, because of the Muslims, it will be safer for you to move to a safer seat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'd lose him. And I thought, anti-Semitism has done that.
Yeah.
It's changing the fabric of our society.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's forcing these sort of decisions, and we all know that Keir Starmer knows, and as do all the leaders, they know the rights and the wrongs of what's going on in the Middle East, but they are powerless to do anything about it because of the Muslims in the country, and that's it. They're scared of a revolution. They're scared of, if 100,000 can take to the streets so quickly, can you imagine if they took to the streets being even angrier than they are now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. The army even the army couldn't cope with it.
I had a final thought, but then I thought I have got another final thought. I mean, one final thought was that I read today that Roger Waters, ex-leader of Pink Floyd, who basically, as I can see, I mean, would I get sued for saying this or whatever? But he seems to be a total nutcase.
Yeah.
But he's come out in favour and support of Palestine Action, and is being currently investigated by the police because it is an illegal organisation. But that was one of my final thing. And the other thing was to say to people, look, guys, if there's something that we've talked about that you disagree with, we're happy for you to comment. If you want to make hold on a minute, my mic's gone a bit funny again.
No, we can hear you. Yeah, perfectly right.
Yeah, it's going through my ears though. I can hear it.
Yeah, we can.
Right, stop now. So the other thing is that if we've mentioned things and we haven't given you a website or an address to go to, just ask us on the website, and Steve or myself will respond and we'll give you the information that you need. I would encourage people to be active. I mean, the comments by the Mayor of London, the comments by the Archbishop of York, the stuff that's gone on at LBC, the stuff that's been put in the Metro, the stuff that's been put on the Daily Express, there needs to be a response to this. Otherwise, these people will get away with it. So if you've got an opportunity, do write to them, do email them, do say something about it and respond to it in a way that makes them know that it's not acceptable. That was my final word.
All right, all down to Mr. Jones to do the final word.
Well, I think my final word to people would be, wise up. If the BBC and other media organisations are given an equal billing to Hamas and Hezbollah and the rest of Jeremy Corbyn's friends, then, you really do need to take a long, hard look at yourself and see whether you're getting your sources from.
Yeah. Okay, no, lovely. Well, listen, guys. Oh gosh, I still feel all kind of like my hackles all raised already.
Yeah, I've got to have another shower.
No, still. So thank you ever so much.
Shower.
I think I probably need more than a cold shower, but thank you very much for your contributions, both you, David, and for Steve as well. So it's goodbye from David. Say goodbye, David. Bye from Stephen.
Bye.
He's already in bed, isn't he? And it's bye from myself. We will catch you next time. If you do want to make some comments on the website, please do that. It's saltshakers.com, and you'll find it under the resources tab in the menu. So speak to you next time. Bye for now.
Hold on. Don't say anything. Oh, fine.
Anything.
Oh, yeah.